Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. The night Jelly Roll realized his life had to change wasn't glamorous. There were no flashing lights, no roaring crowd chanting his name, no backstage chaos humming with adrenaline. Instead, it was quiet, painfully quiet. He sat alone in a dim hotel room after a show, his body aching in ways he could no longer ignore. The applause still echoed in his ears, but it felt distant, almost hollow. He had given the crowd everything he had that night. What scared him was the growing fear that there might not be much of himself left to give. For years, Jelly Roll had worn his pain like armor. His music was raw, unapologetic, and deeply personal stories of addiction, redemption, heartbreak, and survival. Fans connected to him because he didn't pretend to be perfect. He was a walking contradiction, larger than life on stage, deeply vulnerable off it. Food had become comfort, weight had become a shield, and slowly, silently, his body had begun to rebel. The mirror told a story he could no longer dismiss. His face looked tired, his eyes older than his years. Breathing felt heavier, moving felt slower. Doctors warned him, friends worried, and still he pushed on, until the idea of missing out on the future became more terrifying than the comfort of staying the same. But the real turning point didn't come from a diagnosis or a warning. It came from a photograph. Someone had sent him a picture earlier that day, an old one he hadn't seen in years. It was of his son. Jelly Roll stared at the image for a long time, his chest tightening. His son was smiling, carefree, unaware of the battles his father had fought or the mistakes he was still trying to make right. Jelly Roll felt pride, guilt, love, and regret crash into him all at once. The question that hit hardest was simple and devastating. Will I be here long enough to be the father he deserves? That night, Jelly Roll made a quiet promise to himself and to a future he wasn't sure he'd earn. He would change. Not for the cameras, not for headlines, but for life. The weight of the past. Weight loss for Jelly Roll was never just about numbers on a scale. Every pound carried memories, nights numbing pain with food, days spent avoiding emotions he didn't want to face. His relationship with his body mirrored his relationship with his past, complicated, bruised, and heavy with shame. The first weeks were brutal. Early mornings replaced late nights, water replaced sugary drinks, movement replaced avoidance. His body resisted every step, every change. Some days the temptation to quit felt louder than his will to continue. He missed the comfort of old habits, the false safety of familiarity. But something else began to grow. Discipline. Each small victory mattered. One less soda, one more step, one choice that said, I'm still fighting. He didn't chase perfection, he chased progress. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, his body responded. The scale began to move, but more importantly, so did his mindset. Jelly Roll started talking about his journey openly, not as a flex, but as a confession. He admitted fear, he admitted weakness. Fans listened because they heard themselves in his words. People struggling with their own weight, addictions, and self-worth saw a reflection of their battles in his honesty. For the first time in a long while, Jelly Roll wasn't just surviving, he was rebuilding. The emotional cost of change. Transformation comes with a price. As his body changed, emotions he had buried surfaced. Weight loss stripped away the physical armor he'd relied on, leaving him face to face with old wounds. Memories of missed moments, broken promises, and years lost to self-destruction came rushing back, and none of them hurt more than thoughts of his son. Their relationship had been shaped by distance, physical and emotional. Jelly Roll had always carried the weight of knowing he hadn't been present in the ways that mattered most. Love existed, but so did absence. Regret lingered in the spaces between visits and phone calls. As he got healthier, the desire to reconnect grew stronger. He didn't just want to be a name or a voice. He wanted to be there at school events, birthdays, ordinary days that mattered more than sold-out arenas. The idea of seeing his son again, really seeing him, both excited and terrified him. What if the years apart had created an unbridgeable gap? What if forgiveness wasn't guaranteed? Still, Jelly Roll knew one thing for certain. Running had already cost him too much. The reunion. The day of the reunion arrived quietly, without fanfare. No press, no social media announcements, just a father and a son standing on opposite sides of a door, both carrying their own fears. Jelly Roll adjusted his jacket nervously, his heart pounding harder than it ever had before a performance. He felt different in his body, lighter, stronger, but emotionally he was exposed. This moment mattered more than any song he had ever written. When the door opened, time seemed to slow. His son stood there, taller than Jelly Roll remembered, eyes curious and cautious. For a split second, neither of them moved. The years between them filled the silence. Then Jelly Roll knelt down, not because he had to, but because he wanted to meet his son at eye level. His voice cracked as he spoke his name. There were no speeches prepared, no dramatic apologies, just truth. "I'm here," he said softly, "and I'm trying to be better." That was all it took. His son stepped forward, wrapping his arms around him with a trust that nearly broke Jelly Roll's heart. The embrace was tight, honest, and full of emotions too big for words. Jelly Roll held on like he was afraid the moment might disappear if he let go. Tears came freely, not of shame this time, but of gratitude. In that embrace, Jelly Roll felt the true weight of his transformation. This was the reward no chart ranking or award could match. This was why every hard day, every craving resisted, every painful step forward had mattered. A new definition of strength. Weight loss changed Jelly Roll's body, but reunion changed his soul. Being present with his son reshaped his definition of success. Strength was no longer about endurance alone. It was about accountability, growth, showing up even when it felt uncomfortable. He listened more, he spoke less. He learned his son's interests, his dreams, his fears. They shared simple moments, laughing over meals, talking late into the night, rediscovering a bond that had never truly disappeared, only waited. Jelly Roll didn't pretend the past didn't exist. Instead, he acknowledged it and committed to building something better. Healing wasn't instant, but it was real. And with each passing day, his motivation deepened. His health journey was no longer just about adding years to his life, it was about adding life to those years. Inspiring more than music. As news of Jelly Roll's transformation spread, fans saw more than a physical change. They saw proof that redemption doesn't have an expiration date, that growth is possible even after years of self-doubt, that love, especially a parent's love, can be a powerful catalyst for change. Jelly Roll continued to share his journey, not as a finished story, but as an ongoing process. He talked about setbacks, reminding people that progress isn't linear. He emphasized that the goal wasn't perfection, it was commitment. His music took on new layers, infused with hope earned the hard way. Every lyric carried the weight of experience and the promise of a future he was actively choosing. The road ahead. Today, Jelly Roll still faces challenges. Old habits don't disappear overnight. Life doesn't suddenly become easy because the scale changes. But something fundamental has shifted. He believes he's worth saving. More importantly, he knows he's needed. When he looks at his son now, he doesn't see guilt first. He sees opportunity, time, a chance to be present, honest, and accountable. And in quiet moments, whether backstage before a show or at home after a long day, Jelly Roll reflects on how far he's come.
not just in pounds lost, but in love gained. His transformation isn't a headline, it's a promise kept, a promise to his body, a promise to his future, and most of all, a promise to his son, that this time he's here to stay.